Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming on to our live this morning. I am Michelle O'Connor, your business growth strategist, and we have been discussing since yesterday how to plan. Our aim is to help managers and other levels within the organization throughout these 3 days to understand the planning framework that you can use once you have received your deliverables from your CEO or your founder or your leader, whoever in your organization. And also for you, the CEOs, if you have other team members in your organization who you're going to be handing these plans to, it's important that they understand what to do with it once they get it. And that is what these days have been designed to do. Again, we're on for 30 days. We're at day 22. I can't believe we've gone this long. We're at day 22 of our 30-day business growth action plan challenge. And my aim in doing this is to equip you with the necessary skills and tools that you need to have your plan completed for 2026 before you go off for the holidays. So thank you again for coming on. And as you join, please go ahead and share in the comments where you're joining from and the type of business that you have, so we can use your business as examples as we go through. So today we're talking about how do you break down the goals that you have received. And I want to remind you why this is important. For the past 3 weeks, we have been looking at how do we decide on our goal, how do we decide on the executable steps that we're taking, how do we develop KPIs and measure, how do we prioritize. We've done all of that, and now your plan is ready. But I have realized from my experience that what stops execution from happening is you're taking this plan and you're going to your marketing manager and you're saying to them, here is the marketing plan, or they've agreed because they've been in the room, but human beings are executing those activities. And when they aren't aware of what do I do with this now, how do I think through an initiative and break it down into executable steps, it doesn't get done, or it takes longer, or you, the CEO, have to be repeating yourself over and over. So I designed these 3 days to be that bridge between we've completed the plan since last week. Now you're speaking to your other team leaders. These 3 days is designed to be the bridge between you, the CEO, and your managers. So I'm giving everybody now what you need in order to execute once we go over on this side. So again, thank you for joining. We're going to be teaching today. So I want you to be paying attention to the screen as I share with you. Thank you for coming on. Please let me know if you have any questions. How have you been finding the challenge thus far? I'd love to hear from you as we go through. So let's jump right into it. So we're talking about how to plan. That is our focus for the 3 days. And we know from the conversations that we've been having that there's a challenge why the planning fail. We say the planning fail, but it's really the execution of the plan that really fails for many leaders. And here are some reasons. Your goals are assigned without a structure to break them down. So I just shared with you, your CEO would have said to you, this is what we're going to be focusing on going into the next year. Now it's time for you to execute. You don't know how to do that. You don't know how to break goals down. So you take it and you start something and you have to pause because you didn't think about the other thing. And that's what we're trying to fix. Another thing is people jump into doing and you skip the thinking process. That's something that comes so natural to us because we want to always be in the doing. But when you pause, like we've paused over the past 22 days to think through what activities do we need to take in order to achieve our goal, and that's what you now need to do. So it's important that we remember as I'm sharing this, that the planning doesn't stop at the CEO's level. The planning continues to all levels of the organization. And that is why having this conversation is important. When the CEO plans, they break down. Then it goes to the managers, they are also breaking down. It goes to the team member, they are also breaking down. So planning continues throughout your organization. That is why it's important for you to understand how to plan. And I hope you're getting that. Hi, Jordan. Thank you for coming on. All right, so let's continue. We are going through why planning fails. No, you jump into the doing without, and you're skipping the thinking process. The other thing that's happening for you is The important dependencies, risk, and timelines are missed. Now, if you joined us before, one of our days we spent talking about identifying dependencies. And it's important that when you're identifying your dependencies, you know which roles are going to be supporting this goal that you're taking on. You also know what systems you need. Are there updates in processes? Do we need money? What are the other resources? You also need to assess your risk. And we're going to be talking about risk on Thursday. Today is Tuesday. If you're watching the replay, so 2 days after this one, you can watch the next one. We're going to be talking about developing a risk register for your business. And you want to assess, is there anything that could prevent us or delay this goal that we have, and also your timeline. So we did a whole live on that. If you're interested, you can send me a message and I'll point you directly to the video for that one. Teams are unclear about what done looks like. And I must say that we did spend some time on that, because when you talk about something being done, something being completed, what that means is you would have been very clear as to what the target looks like. So your team needs to know this is completed when we are at 100%. This is completed when we have published. This is completed when we have, and those are your measures. You want to develop that. And we also did a live on that. So this is really showing you how everything comes together and how it flows. And again, if you're interested in any of the lives, all our videos are up for replay. But anything specific that you need, you can drop that in the comments and I'll be sure to just send you the video directly. Everyone is busy, but not moving in the same direction. I remember even in my corporate days, one of the things that we found, everybody's busy and working overtime. But at the end of the period, when we look at our financials, it didn't reflect the business that we saw in the organization. And what we had to look on, which I'm going to touch on soon, is that we're carrying too many things and we're moving from thing to thing, but not completing any one goal. So here we go. Now we're going to be talking about this 3-step planning framework. I want you to get your note-taking instruments ready, whether you're using a pen, pencil, notepad, or you're going to be recording. The first thing you're going to do is you're defining your outcome. What is the outcome? Why am I having this live event? Why are we going after this goal? What do we want to achieve in the end? What's the impact that we hope to have? Define that goal and make it very clear, and people need to understand it. Break down your goals into activities. If we are going to be moving from point A to point B, these are the steps that we are going to be taking. We're going down this road, we're going to pause here, we're going to get gas, we're going to buy food, you name it. Break it down. Then you want a sequence, that's prioritizing, adding dates so you know what's coming when, and you're identifying your risk. And after you've done that, you're able to say, okay, this is what my roadmap looks like. So this is like your Google Maps for your business, right? That's what we're doing. So let's talk about defining your outcome. You want to say, what does success look like? And these are some questions that you want to ask, or these are some questions that you can ask. It's not the full list of questions, but it gets the brain thinking. And once you start, then you will come up with other questions. What is the goal? Why does it matter? And why does it matter is an important question that you want to ask, because I've found that is sometimes what stalls. You are up here as the leader, and you would have agreed on this specific target that you're going after. You have spent months in meeting rooms discussing these goals, discussing these targets, and then you take a day and you explain it to your team, and your team is thinking, no, not really. I have a different way of doing it. But there's a reason you decided to take that route. And I can use the example of using Google Maps. I'm sure you have found times where you're using Google Maps to go somewhere, but you know the route, and you're like, you know what? No, I'm not going to follow that. I'm going to go where I want to go. Only to realize that Google Maps maybe was putting you in that direction because there was an accident, because there was road work, or they got some information that you didn't get. Right? And that happens in the organization where, as the leader, because you're having a cloud's view, you're seeing the entire span of the organization. There are things that you know that somebody else who's not sitting where you're sitting, they don't see. So they need to understand why it matters. Why do I need to go after this? What is it going to impact in the end? Am I making sense? Has this been your experience? Go ahead and share with me so that we know we're on the same page. So persons want to know, why does it matter? You also want to ask question, who is it for? Be very clear. Don't go in with any assumption. What must be true for this to be successful? We need to have X in order for Y to be true. What constraints? You realize that this is just a different way of asking about the risk. What does done look like? What does it look like? Tell me for you. And when you ask these questions, you would be surprised, guys, when you're in a room, how many persons have a different perception of what done looks like. Done means have you ever gotten a service from a company and you feel like they're just ticking the box? Oh, done looks like we got it done. No, it's done looks like I sent the email. No, done looks like you received a response and there was agreement. So be very clear on that. The second thing is break your goals into activities. Map out everything that is required. Identify all your major activities that must happen. So in order for us to go to increase our sales by 100,000, what needs to happen? We need to have a pipeline of X. We need to have X number of leads. That must happen. We need to host this workshop. That must happen. We need to reduce our expenses. That must happen. Have those conversations. For each activity, ask what smaller steps sits under this. So if we're going to be hosting a sales event where we're going to have our vehicles on display, what are some of the smaller steps that needs to happen? We need to identify what vehicles we're going to be looking on. We need to do 1, 2, 3. Ask yourself those questions. Keep breaking tasks down until they are executable. We talk high level a lot of times, and that's not where we want to play. That's not where we want to stay. Where we want to be is, how can we get this thing done? How can we make it executable? Focus on completeness. Marketing, that includes, okay, are we going to need marketing support, operation support, finance support, people, system? That is what makes it complete. When your plan does not have these elements, what tends to happen is, you say you have a plan and it's done, but you've not thought through these things, and you get to the point where you're trying to do it and you can't do it because you didn't think about the money part, and now I have to pause it because it can't get done. So you want to think through all of that. Are we clear? Do you have any questions? Has this been your experience? Right? If so, you can go ahead and let me know. So let's continue. Let's go on now to point number 3. So we're talking about the 3-step framework that you can use for your planning. The next thing, I had an example here that I wanted to show you, where this was a product, increased sales in our product example that I had used, where we're looking at all the executable steps. So yes, we want to increase sales, but these are some things we need to do. Review our current monthly performance. That can give us some information so we're able to make decision going forward. Analyze your customer feedback. Okay, these are some things they're saying. This now gives us information as to what can be improved. Update product and branding. We want to be more present. Maybe we need to change our packaging. These are just examples. Refresh your videos, compile customer testimonials, plan your weekly product promotion. So this is now breaking things down in executable steps. I can review my monthly sales performance by looking at the numbers. Those are things that you can do, right? So the next thing is sequence, which is prioritization, looking at your risk and building out that roadmap. So you're turning your steps into now a workable plan, because you would, if we think of what this example looks like, maybe based on the size of your organization, you probably aren't able to do all of these things. When you put dates to them, you may not be able to do everything. So when you go to sequencing now, you're saying, okay, these are the things happening in January, or because I asked the question, what must happen? I'm choosing my must happen from this list, and that now becomes my priority. So put tasks in a logical order. what needs to happen first. Like if this doesn't happen, everything else falls off. If we have no gas in the vehicle, we're not able to drive. So the first thing is, let's go to the gas station. Then you're going to identify your dependencies. Who or what is needed before action can start. So you're putting your things together. Before you go to the beach, you need to have your swimsuit, you need to have your towel, you name it, you're putting the things together. Spot risk early. Time, budget, skill gap, approvals, and capacity. All of these are very, very important. Now, I would have said earlier that one of the things that we would have done when we look at our list of initiatives, we're prioritizing what is being done when. If you have one team, say your sales team have a bulk of the work to do in January, you're thinking, okay, they may not have the capacity to take on this other thing that we're talking about. And this is where the capacity conversation comes in when you identify your dependencies. So when you identify your dependencies, you're not just thinking, if we're increasing sales and we're talking about rebranding, I am now dependent on our marketing team. You're spotting the risk early. Do you have any gaps, skill gap that would impact your budget? You name it, right? Assign realistic timelines. Just not don't think of, oh, this is just the best case scenario. No, assign realistic timelines. Ensure you know what needs to happen and what can happen. And that is why if you had spot your risk from early, where you assign timelines to these initiatives, what now happens, you're better able to say, okay, you know what, this is not going to work or this can work. And then you build a roadmap. That's a visible plan. You build a roadmap that shows all the things you're doing in quarter one or month one, whichever way works, or year one, whichever way works for you. And it now shows you, okay, because I often remind persons that when we talk about our planning, remember that your plan is a communication tool. It's a communication presentation. So you have somebody join your company, they're new, you're sharing this document with them that communicates the plan for your organization. You're going to a financial institution to get a grant, to get a loan, you're communicating, these are the ideas that we have. This is our growth plan. This is where we're planning to take the business. You have an investor who is coming in. I would invest, but I need to know about your company. Your plan is that communication tool that you're using. You engage a new team member, you're sharing the plan with them, you're communicating with them where you are thinking of going. So let's continue. Now, what tends to happen? People are like, oh, but what if we do all of these things and it still doesn't happen? No, or let me just share this with you before. So this would have been from our increased sales initiative, and we, sorry, we shared this example before where we're saying these are the initiatives. We would have included our KPIs, we also included our owners, and we also have some timelines. So this is going to help us with our sequencing and our prioritization. You're seeing the different roles. So under owner, we have the CEO, we have customer, we have marketing doing all of these things. You are asking what needs to happen first. If we're going to be updating our product branding, do we need to do the branding before we take photos? Yes, that's why this is being done in March and this is being done in April. So those are some, this is just an example of what we were talking about earlier. So some common mistakes that you make when you're planning. One, you're doing too much at once. And this is because we may not have reviewed our capacity. You're creating tasks that depend on people who are not aware. This is a big gap in organization. You have created an initiative where you want to increase sales and you're talking about rebranding, but marketing don't know that they need to come in and rebrand, or you haven't communicated with your agency, or you're fixing your onboarding process, but you haven't communicated with operations. They need to be aware. You're setting timelines without capacity review. So when you set the timelines, remember that your team members, they have work doing. They're not, hopefully they do, they're not sitting idle. So when you set your timelines, everybody needs to be included. You're missing cost implication. We did a whole session last week on assigning cost your revenue generating initiatives, ensuring that you have a full idea of what is going to cost you. What does my budget look like? You're skipping risk assessment, and I shared earlier that we have a whole session on that, and also assuming that people should know. Let's remove the assumption. There are no dumb questions. Once you're in the room, ask the questions that you need to ask in order to get the responses. So, your action for today, I want you to review the plans that you have. Maybe your team leader would have handed you a plan. You're not exactly sure what you need to do with it. Go ahead and use this as your framework. And if you are in the room and you have your plan documented, but you're not exactly sure how you're going to get it done, or you may have had a plan already, but for some reason it didn't work and you're not really sure, I guarantee you the execution part is the issue, and we are here to work with you. So I'm inviting you to go ahead and book a call with us. Go ahead and send us an email. Let us know. We want to enter 2026 with clarity and vision. Michelle, please help us. Here is the link to my calendar. You can book a call there and we'll have a conversation. Do we have any questions before we wrap up? Let me know if you have any questions. And even if you're watching the replay, you can also type your questions. We get alerts on those questions and we can also respond. But I wanted to bridge the gap between handing over the plan to the team member or the leader and the execution. And a lot of times understanding what to do next is a huge gap, and it causes delay and burnout. So I hope you found this helpful. Join us again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. where we continue with how to plan, and then we'll move into your risk register. Thank you again, and I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a great day.